Hello, welcome to AFcast. I'm your host Malcolm, and today I am going to be talking about the new Ghost Recon game, Ghost Recon Breakpoint. And along with that, I'm going to be talking about the new title update in Ghost Recon Wildlands called Operation Oracle. And the reason I'm going to be talking about Operation Oracle is because it actually leads us into Ghost Recon Breakpoint. So to start us off with Operation Oracle, is that it starts off with you trying to save an engineer from Skeltech. Not Skulltech, sorry. And essentially Bowman is protecting him because those are her orders. And we actually meet another ghost named Walker who went rogue because of this engineer. And the reason he went rogue because of this engineer is because the engineer is actually selling ideas and actual technology from Skeltech to the Unidad. And he blames Bowman for it all. And essentially after saving the engineer, because Walker actually turns out to be part of, or he used to be part of your squad at some point in time. And after saving the engineer, he met up with Bowman, and he actually tricked Bowman, and Unidad managed to capture her. And Walker actually ended up killing the engineer, which kind of was the staple point of him going rogue and essentially, leaving the whole Ghost Recon program. And so is now a rogue ghost. And now we rescued Bowman from the Unidad, and Walker actually almost killed Bowman too because of what she did. But we managed to fend him off because he actually trusts us because we used to be part of the same squad, and we told him no. And Walker is officially now rogue at the end of Operation Oracle and is going with his new wolves, as he calls them, and is planning on going to the island Aroa and actually invites us to come along with him. And so Walker is your main enemy in Ghost Recon Breakpoint. So to talk about Ghost Recon Breakpoint, I'm going to be talking about the world premiere live stream that I actually watched. It came out on May 9th, and I'm pretty sure Operation Oracle actually came out about a week before and also hinted at you watching the live stream on May 9th. So I'd actually recommend you watch that after you listen to this podcast. Try to find some new things that maybe I didn't catch myself. But besides that, I'm going to jump right in with the first thing that they did in the live stream was that they talked about the previous Ghost Recon games and kind of what each of those did to put their own staple in tactical shooters. Because Ghost Recon, like the very first Ghost Recon game, was kind of the start of tactical shooters. And so we meet Emile Dabon, which is a U.S. Army Green Beret who served with Special Forces for 14 years and is now actually a writer for Ghost Recon Breakpoint. And you also meet the executive producer of Ghost Recon Breakpoint, the creative director, and also the community director, who essentially, listens to the community and actually applies input into the new game. So a lot of Ghost Recon Breakpoint is actually community driven, and a lot of the new mechanics, which are actually a lot more diverse and dynamic than they were in the previous games, are all because of our suggestions. So keep them coming, because we still have until October 4th until this game comes out in order to make some changes or provide some ideas of what they can do better from their previous titles. They also talk about that there is a certain point in which a soldier can reach what they call a breakpoint, which lowers combat effectiveness of your group and your soldier. And I believe this game is supposed to be threatening that your character, Nomad, and his breakpoint, along with your teammates that you might have. Throughout the stream, we start getting more into the game. First, with them telling us about the remote island of Aroa, located in the middle of the Pacific. And then we watch the Global Threat Story trailer, which is essentially just showing how Skeltech rose to power in the technology game, and that Skeltech is now making essentially advanced weaponry because of all the PMCs, which are private military contractors, hiring them to make them lethal weapons. but his main idea was to try and like stop poverty, increase like surgical effectiveness, medical stuff, anything like that. He was mostly trying to help the world, but obviously money got in the way. And actually, throughout the game, Walker and his wolves take over the island, and essentially they start weaponizing all of his drones and technology a lot more to actually, use it for themselves and making this the most dangerous place on Earth, which is against you and whoever teammates you bring along. So not only do they have like their own ghosts with the same military training and background as you, along with the same arsenal and now better arsenal than you did, but they also have hired private military contractors to work for them. And so you'll also be fighting them. Actually, you'll mainly be fighting them throughout the game. And yeah. So now I'm going on to the gameplay, which we managed to see throughout their gameplay trailer. And then also they talked some about their gameplay in an interview at the end of the live stream. And then I also got some information from people who actually got to see some behind the scenes stuff that were hired to see stuff behind the curtain of Ghost Recon Breakpoint, which is kind of cool. So the first thing that you notice when watching the gameplay trailer is that you have a stamina meter, which basically allows you to sprint and control yourself when going down steep slopes. And if you run out of the stamina meter, essentially you can't sprint anymore. And if you're going down those slopes, you'll actually start tumbling, which can cause you to get injured. And yes, there are now injuries in the game. How injuries work is that there are 3 different tiers. And as these tiers go up, the less and less your character is actually able to maneuver himself. And at the 3rd tier, you're basically barely able to move and are holding a pistol because you don't even have enough strength to hold up your primary or even aim it correctly. So, yeah. But essentially, if you get shot in separate places, like the leg, it makes you limp more. The arm, it makes you unable to shoot as well. The head will give you a concussive effect, anything like that. And the more injured you are, the less stamina you actually have in your stamina meter, which means that if you're injured and you're about to die and you fall down a slope, you can actually start tumbling down the slope a lot faster than you would before, and can actually cause you to die because of how fast you're tumbling down that slope, which makes the game a lot more hardcore than it was in Wildlands, because the terrain can actually kill you now, which is pretty insane, actually. So, yeah. And you actually will see recon drones that fly around the island, trying to spot you and your soldiers, and I'm pretty sure you have to hide from them. It's possible that is not the case, and they were just doing that for aesthetics when in the gameplay trailer. But it looked like, or maybe it was just a specific mission even. I don't know, but it looks like they're trying to find you, and if they locate you, they might actually hunt you down. Because you also see that in the story trailer, as one of the ghosts is actually flying a recon drone around trying to find you on like a thermal scope. So, yeah. Another thing that you notice throughout the gameplay trailer is that there's actually now a thing called prone camo, which you essentially, if you're in like a muddy environment or like an area with a lot of leaves, sand, anything like that, you can slightly bury yourself in it and like cover yourself in the leaves, mud, sand, whatever it is. And you'll essentially be camouflaged in the ground, and enemies will actually walk past you and not notice you. Or at least it'll be a lot less likely. Maybe if they step on you, they'll notice you. But this essentially allows you to flank them while being completely still, which is pretty interesting. There's also new melees in the game, where there is CQC combat with just your fists, and then there's also 2 separate knives that you can equip throughout the game that give you their own set of CQCs. I'm pretty sure one's just like a regular combat knife, while another one's like a switchblade. And if they know like that you're there when you're meleeing them, then they'll actually struggle with you, and it takes you longer for you to actually kill them using your melee. But it's not a button mash or anything like that. It's just a longer animation. And this can cause you to waste a lot more time. So I'd recommend being a lot more careful meleeing someone while in combat, because you will struggle with them versus being able to take them out before they even realize that you're there. There are also new drivable vehicles in the game that you notice, and in the story trailer, you actually notice that it pops it pops the wheel of the vehicle that Nomad is driving. And if you can do that in this game, that increases that just changes so many strategies that you can have during road combat, where if you pop a vehicle, like you pop the wheel of a vehicle and it causes it to like spin out or flip and maybe even take another vehicle that's behind it, like that will just add a whole new layer of to it. So yeah. And you actually still have the recon drone. Obviously, I don't know why they would take out the recon drone that you can have and throw up in the air to mark enemies around you and locate everything around you. And you also now have these new sync shot drones that will go around and they'll hover above people. And when you shoot, they'll shoot and kill the person that they're hovering above as well at the same time. And the reason for this is that now there is no more AI teammates. You can still have like online teammates, but you can only have up to 4. But when you're playing solo, you'll be completely alone. So they added in these drones that allows you to still have a sync shot even without the AIs. And now there's this new thing that I noticed they never really talked about it. So I could be completely wrong on this, but I noticed that one of the characters during the gameplay actually dove out of the way of a rocket launcher from an enemy, and I'm pretty sure they dove out of the way because it was before the rocket hit the ground. So I don't think it was like the rocket hitting that caused them to fling out of the way, because their stamina meter also dropped down a lot when they did that. So I'm assuming that you can dive now, which changes a whole new thing when it comes to cover combat, when you can dive behind cover, or even just dive out of the way of vehicles and rockets. So it completely changes the game and combat effectiveness that you can have when in a tactical shooter. And you can still get downed in the game like you could in Wildlands, and you still have the same stim shot animation, but this time it is slightly different because you can actually pick up your ally and move them if they're in an unsafe location to revive quickly. And yeah, this allows for completely new stuff because you can also do that for dead enemies that you have killed in order to maintain your stealth. Just that way other enemies don't find the body and alert others. So, which makes it really amazing. And like I mentioned earlier, the terrain can work against you in this game, but it can also work for you, because it can cut off like enemies trying to come after you, if the terrain is too rough or something like that. And then there's multiple areas like the forests or plains or snowy mountains, and there's even a volcano in this area of Aroa. So there's now this thing called the bivouac as well, which allows you to rest, and you can like change your loadout, and you can even trade items with your teammates. And you can also like change your classes. And essentially, right now we have 4 classes in Ghost Recon Breakpoint. They said that they will be releasing more, but the 4 we have right now are the Sharpshooter, the Panther, Engineer, and Medic. So we have the Sharpshooter, which essentially has special bullets on them that they will load into their sniper rifle, that do extra damage. And also they're able to hold their breath for longer, which basically stabilizes your aim. And you're also faster at reloading long-ranged weapons. And then the Panther can quickly engage from close range, so QC, and then they can go back to stealth quicker. So basically, the Sharpshooter will take a certain amount of time to remain out of people's eyesight in order to go back into stealth, but the Panther goes back into stealth way quicker than the Sharpshooter does for any of these other classes, which is pretty interesting. And then the Engineer and the Medic, we don't really have much information on, but it looks like the Engineer is the one that actually has the rocket launcher on them that we see multiple times throughout the live stream. But yeah. And then there's also food and water now, at least there could be. It's one of those behind the scenes sources that I mentioned earlier. And essentially they have water for like dehydration that you might get, and then also food that will give you different buffs. There's now lots of enemy archetypes, at least they said that there are. because now you have all of the new like drones in the game, the different lethal drones, which I'm pretty sure actually some of them are in Future Soldier, which is pretty cool. But the three main ones that we know of are the guy with the rocket launcher. We know of someone that has a shotgun and that will throw flashbangs at you while they're trying to shoot at you with the shotgun. And then also a Juggernaut, which is a super armored person with a minigun. So watch out for those guys. And then I'm pretty sure there's going to be a ton more besides those as well, because you obviously have your ghosts as well. And I'm pretty sure those are just the PMCs, which are the private military contractors that roam around the world. And enemies will actually coordinate to take you on. Like they'll communicate with each other, call in reinforcements, everything like that to try and kill you. And they also have enemy patrols that roam around the world. And this isn't something like a vehicle, like a Unidad patrol vehicle that would go around in Wildlands. This is like a full-on patrol that would be wandering the woods with a lethal robot tank thing and like multiple PMCs that will be roaming with heavy machinery and everything like that. And they'll be constantly hunting for you, essentially. This whole game, you're in defense instead of on attack, which is pretty interesting. And enemies can even have weak points in this game. So, like, the rocket launcher guy will have a pack that you can shoot, and it will blow them up, essentially. And so this can cause some AoE effects and whatnot. And then there are also lieutenants with special ghost squads. And in the story trailer, we actually see 8 that are standing next to Walker. And so right now we're assuming that there's 8 squads. But there could be more than that. There probably even will be more than that. But it is possible that it will still remain as 8. And essentially this will be like the same branching system that we saw in Wildlands with the security, production, smuggling, and influence. But maybe the tree will be slightly different this time. And that's why I'm wondering if there might be more, because we definitely had a lot more than 8 Buchons that we had in Wildlands. So it could increase in number. Maybe even decrease, but I highly doubt that. And they also mentioned that you keep the same progression throughout the entire game, so you don't upgrade your character like you do in Wildlands with your skills. You remain with the same skill set and everything like that. You do pick up stuff, and then you also lose stuff, so you pick up like the new melee weapons that you can use. You pick up bandages, and then as you use bandages, you'll run out of them. Everything like that. And they also said that every 4 months after launch, they will be releasing a new major update. And the first one that they said that they'll be releasing contains a raid in the game, which is the first ever raid that we've ever seen in a Ghost Recon game, which is awesome. And essentially, raids are just a high-stakes mission that are typically done with more than a squad. So, like in the Division, a squad would be a group of 4, but a raid consists of 8 people. And so if it's anything like the Division, you will actually see 2 different squads, or 8 people total at least, that will be doing this high-stakes mission. So, in summary of what I talked about, you are completely put to the test in this game. This is supposed to mimic and supposed to be very realistic. Obviously, not the automated like drones and new technology that I actually don't know if it's even close to being invented now, but we aren't there yet now. But the mechanics in the game are supposed to be fairly realistic, like to the best of their ability. And a lot of the stuff is actually sampled from the Green Beret, the person who served special forces for 14 years. So Emile Debon showed them all of like the different CQC stuff that he does, and I'm pretty sure some of those are even implemented in the game. Different things that he had to do, like the prone camo, everything like that, in order to hide from your enemies. And like I mentioned earlier, instead of playing as attack, you are playing as defense, and this makes the game not only a tactical shooter, but also a survival game, as you will have to be healing yourself, bandaging your wounds, everything like that, and it completely changes the stakes of the game. The game is also super dynamic with the new enemies, the archetypes, and new mechanics that are brought in trying to make the game more realistic. And the new arsenal, like with the breach tool and the bandages with the syringe, makes the game so dynamic. And another thing that makes it dynamic is that we now have classes and the bivouacs around the map for you and your team to change their loadouts, their classes, and strategize for their next attack. Not only that, but the story looks interesting, it looks engaging, and it looks challenging. And that honestly is what makes a good story, because you need something that grabs your attention. You need something that, especially in this game is supposed to be, it's supposed to feel like you're essentially being held to the brink of your character just emotionally and physically collapsing in this game. And it's supposed to bring you to that break point, which is why the game is called Ghost Recon Breakpoint. And another thing that I want to mention before I end this is that the game never seems to end, because the end game will be forever expanding every 4 months. And if it's anything like Ghost Recon Wildlands, there will be a lot of replayability for the missions. And then you'll also be able to get like gun cases like you were in Ghost Recon Wildlands, documents, or even take on bases over and over again. So if it's anything like Wildlands, there will be plenty of replayability for you to do between those 4-month periods. And considering that like each one is going to be a major update every 4 months, they're doing a lot of work. So honestly, just props to them, like, because they're also going to be working on the new Ghost Recon game after that. I'm assuming that there is one. And I really hope that there is, because this is everything starting to be combined now, with Ghost Recon Wildlands being led into Ghost Recon Breakpoint, which essentially leads into Ghost Recon Future Soldier. So it's all starting to link in together more than it was before. So, I'm liking it personally, as you can tell. But yeah, so if you haven't played Operation Oracle and Ghost Recon Wildlands, I'd heavily recommend that you do that, because you're able to make a lot more connections then after you watch the 3 trailers that they've come out with. And also make sure that you check out the live stream. Obviously it's not live anymore, but you can still find it on Ubisoft's YouTube channel, and you will be able to find the live stream. And if you watch it, it's over an hour. It's about hour 20 minutes, I believe. But it's totally worth it, because you might even find stuff that I might have missed, and maybe even search YouTube, because I'm pretty sure that there's going to be YouTube videos about reviewing this stuff like I am right now. So try to find as much information as you can, everything like that, etc. So besides all that, make sure you check out our website. It has a bunch of YouTube channels of us gaming. It has a Twitch stream of one of our friends that does live streams of him playing games, like CSGO and R6, and even just random various games, along with this podcast, on the website, that is, not on his live stream. And also make sure you check out our Instagram and Twitter, and also make sure you check out our Discord, DJ Augie as well, because he's the one who made the music for the beginning and end of this podcast. All of that will be in the description. But besides all that, game on.